Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'd like to thank my wife for reading the introduction. I'd like to thank all the devotees who are participating, and I'd like to especially thank those devotees who turn on their videos. Okay, I believe we're doing text 32. Is that correct? Does anybody know?
Yes, Prabhu, 32.
Okay. So everyone can repeat. Well, I don't know if you want to put it on the screen. Yadrichaya chopapanam
Yadrichaya chopapanyam
svagadvaram apavritam
Swargadwaram apavritam
sukina kshatriya partha
Sukhina kshatriya partha
labhante yudam idrisham
Labhante
Yuddhamitrisham.
yuddhamitrisham
Yadrichaya chopapanam
Yadrishaya
Yadrichaya
chopapannam.
svagadvaram apavritam
Swargadvaram
Swargadwaram
apavritam.
apavritam
Kshatriya partha
Sukhina
Dukhina
kshatriya
kshatriya
partha.
partha
labhante yudam idrisham
Labhante
Labhante
yuddhamitrisham.
yuddhamitrisham
Yadrichaya chopapanam
Yadrishaya
Yadrichaya
chopapannam.
svagadvaram apavritam
Swargadvaram
Swargadwaram
apavritam.
apavritam
kshatriya partha
Sukhina
Sukhina
kshatriya
kshatriya
partha.
partha
labhante yudam idrisham.
Labhante
Labhante
yuddhamitrisham.
yuddhamitrisham.
So we're going to have the children chant late after, if that's possible, at the end. So the adults chant first.
Yadrishaya chopapannam.
Yadrichaya chopapannam
Swargadvaram apavritam.
Swargadwaram apavritam
Sukhina kshatriya partha.
Sukhina kshatriya partha
Labhante yuddhamitrisham.
Labhante yuddhamitrisham. Yadrichya chopapannam
Yadrishaya chopapannam.
Swargadwaram apavritam
Swargadvaram apavritam.
Sukhina kshatriya partha
Sukhina kshatriya partha.
Labhante yuddhamitrisham.
Labhante yuddhamitrisham.
Children, they want to chant?
Can I chant?
Yes.
Yadrucha Yachopanam
Yadrishaya chopapannam.
Vargadvaram Aparvitam
Swargadvaram apavritam.
Shukinaha Kshatriyaha Partha
Sukhina kshatriya partha.
Bante Yuddham Idrisham
Labhante yuddhamitrisham.
Yadruchaya Chopanam
Yadrishaya chopapannam.
Vargadvaram Apavritam
Swargadvaram apavritam.
apavritam
Sukhina Kshatriya Partha
Sukhina kshatriya
kshatriya
partha.
partha
Labhante Yuddham Idrisham
लभन्ते युद्धमीदृशम्
यदृच चोपपन्यम्
यदृच्छया चोपपन्नम्
स्वर्गद्वारमपावृतम्
स्वर्गद्वारमपावृतम्
सुखिना क्षत्रिया पार्थ
सुखिनः क्षत्रिया पार्थ
लभन्ते युद्धमिषादितम्
कीदृशम् लभन्ते युद्धं कीदृशम्
यदृच्छाय चोपपन्नम्
यदृच्छया चोपपन्नम्
स्वर्गद्वारम् अपावृतम्
स्वर्गद्वारमपावृतम्
सुखिनः क्षत्रिया पार्थ
सुखिनः क्षत्रिया
क्षत्रिया
पार्थ
ते युद्धमिदृशम्
लभन्ते युद्धमीदृशम्
यदृच्छया चोपपन्नं सर्गदारम् अपावृतम्
स्वर्गद्वारमपावृतम्
सुखिनः क्षत्रियाः पार्थ
क्षत्रिया पार्थ
लभन्ते युद्धम् ईदृशम्
लभन्ते युद्धमीदृशम्
Anyone else?
Yeah. Yachaya cha upavannam
यदृच्छया चोपपन्नं
sargadwaram apamrutam
सर्गदारम् अपावृतम्
Sina kshatriya partha
सुखिनः क्षत्रियाः पार्थ
Abhanti yuddhama idrasham
लभन्ते युद्धमीदृशम्
Yadrishchaya,
चतुष्टया
by its own accord.
by its own accord.
Sha,
Sha
also.
Also
Upapanam,
Upapanam
arrived at.
arrive at
Dvarga,
Swarga
of the heavenly planets.
of
the heavenly planets.
Dvaram,
Dwaram
Dharam.
door
apavritam,
Apavritam.
wide open.
wide
Wide
open
open.
Sukhinaha,
Sukhinaha.
very happy.
Very happy.
Kshatriyaha,
Kshatriyaha.
the members of the royal order.
The members of the royal order.
Partha,
Partha.
O son of Pita.
O
O
son
son
of
of Pita.
Labante,
Labante
Labante.
to achieve.
to
To
achieve
achieve.
Yudam,
Yudham.
war.
war
War.
Idrisham,
Idrisham.
like this.
Like this.
O Partha, happy are the
O
Kshatriyas.
Partha.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
everyone they can shut off their mics so I don't get any feedback. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors to the heavenly planets. Purport. As supreme teacher of the world, Lord Krishna condemns the attitude of Arjuna, who said, I do not find any good in this fighting. It will cause perpetual habitation in hell. Such statements by Arjuna were due to ignorance only. He wanted to become nonviolent in the discharge of a specific duty. For a Kshatriya to be on the battlefield and to become nonviolent is the philosophy of fools. In the Parashara Smriti, or religious codes made by Parashara, the great sage and father of Vyasadeva, it is stated, Kshatriyohi praja rakshan shastrapani pradandayan nirjitya para sanyadi kshitim dharmena palayet. Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties, and for that reason, he has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Therefore, he has to conquer the soldiers of the inimical kings, and thus, with religious principles, he should rule over the world. Considering all aspects, Arjuna had no reason to refrain from fighting. If he should conquer his enemies, he would enjoy the kingdom. And if he should die in the battle, he would be elevated to the heavenly planets, whose doors were wide open to him. Fighting would be for his benefit in either case. Yadrichaya chopapanam swagadvaram apavritam sukina kshatriya partha labante yudam idrisham. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors to the heavenly planets. So there's a lot said here. First of all, Arjuna, he's saying, I do not find any good in this fighting. You know, he you know, and even in the Bhagavad Gita here, the arguments at first are, you know, if we kill all these men, then the women are unprotected, and there'll be unwanted progeny. There'll be, people won't be as following the Vedic culture. So many things would be really wrong. And it's all material arguments. I mean, they're good arguments, but they're also material arguments. They're not, and Krishna here is also giving some material argument. He's saying, what good would it be? We will go, you know, this fighting, then we be perpetually in hell for all these sins we're committing. So he's saying that we're going to, you know, that it's wrong and it's sinful and so many things wrong with this war, and we shouldn't fight. Just like when we had here in this country, we had the Vietnam War. So so many people were against it. Why are we fighting this war? And of course, eventually they stopped this war, and now Vietnam is a pretty nice place. But that war was not a war that Krishna wanted us to have. But here, Krishna wants this war, and he wants this war. He's got his own hidden agenda, you might say. His agenda is to wipe out all this overburden of these demoniac kings. So many kings were not spiritual. Now, as far as the citizens, because it mentions here, Kshatriyas on the battlefield become non-violent. Let's see, statements by Arjuna. He wanted to become non-violent. Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties. And for that reason, he has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Now, the citizens, there was no problem. The citizens weren't having any difficulties. Life was fine for them. They didn't have a problem. You know, Duryodhana was the king and he was ruling and the citizens were happy. But because he's not God conscious, he's not going to be bringing them to the, and he may not have been interfering with their spiritual life, but he certainly wasn't a good example or a good support. So this reason that he's fighting isn't necessarily so the citizens are out of difficulties, because they really weren't having difficulties. But there's some problems here, is that the Pandavas were Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas have to do their duty. They can't do somebody else's duty. And they had no duty to do because they had no kingdom. You know, they just wanted 5 villages and they would rule those villages. They wouldn't give them enough land to put a pin in. So as Kshatriyas, they had to do their duty. So they had to fight for that reason also. And also because Krishna wanted to get rid of the demoniac burden of the world. So this war was necessary for that reason. But Krishna is also given Arjuna, in one sense, because Arjuna came up with this argument of going to hell. Because for a devotee doesn't even care if he goes to hell as long as he's serving Krishna. So going to hell isn't really bad. But he's given that argument about going to hell. So Krishna is refuting that argument by saying that if you die, and these other people who die, they're going to the heavenly kingdom. The doors are open. So, and if you win, then you get this kingdom. So there's really no loss. It's a great opportunity for a Kshatriya. I mean, the only problem is if you get wounded badly and then you're still living and you can't really function very well. So that's why Kshatriya doesn't leave the battle. He fights. He fights until death pretty much. Even I think it was Abhimanyu who they cut off his they cut off his legs, and he asked for a sword because he wanted to keep fighting. He had still one arm, he could fight with a sword, and then they killed him. But he was willing to fight. These are the Kshatriyas, rather, death before dishonor. That just reminds me of when I was in the Navy. They had this. I had a coffee cup. It said "Death before reenlistment." I wasn't so dedicated to this service. I was when I first went in, but then I just had enough of it. But so there's several different points, and Krishna is saying, you go to the heavenly planets. Then you go 10 verses up, 42, 43. He says, men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to the heavenly planets. So people who follow the Vedas to go to the heavenly planets have small knowledge, result in good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. So in that verse, Krishna is saying that going to the heavenly planets is just a phantasmagoria, and people who study the Vedas say there's nothing more than this. This is what it's all about. This is what the Vedas are all about. And it's not so much even their fault, because mostly that's what the Vedas are about. That's not what we read, because Srila Prabhupada has given us the essence of the Vedas. He's given us the spiritual portion of the Vedas, which is the most important part of the Vedas. But Krishna later on, so he's giving him the argument that you go to the heavenly planets better than here, or if you're here, you get the kingdom. And then later on, going to the heavenly planets, people who want to go there are less intelligent. So he's going progressively. Right now, he's given still some material arguments because Arjuna has some material arguments. So he's defeating those material arguments. And he does a very good job of it. He's very logical, very systematic, step by step. He doesn't just go from he doesn't want to fight, and Krishna doesn't say, just surrender to me and I'll take care of all your sins. He doesn't say that. He says that, but way at the end of the whole Bhagavad Gita. So he tells him progressively. He wants to get rid of his doubts. He has some doubts. So Krishna is his guru, and Krishna is getting rid of these doubts. So the first thing he had to do was get him to be wanting to fight. So this is all his arguments for getting him to fight. Now, I didn't read very much. I didn't speak very much. But does anyone have any questions on something I read or something I said?
Yes, I have a question.
Oh, no, it's my old buddy. Okay.
Can we say that one reason that Krishna wanted Arjuna to fight also was that Duryodhana had usurped what was rightly Yudhisthira's. So the example of a leader, grabbing something that's not his also had to be dealt with.
Okay. I can see, I don't think Krishna would have a big war because somebody stole something. I think because he stole something from his devotees. It's like when you commit some offense against him, he doesn't care so much. It doesn't bother him so much. But if you do something against a devotee, then he does not forgive that. He will not forgive that. If the devotee forgives, that's one thing, but he's not happy. So that's, I would say, more because they're devotees, more than just because somebody stole somebody else's property, usurped their kingdom. I mean, that would, that's a material thing, and that'll go on forever and ever because everybody's always doing that. But I think because they were devotees and they took that and he couldn't tolerate it. So he wanted to get it back. I mean, and he did take opportunities to, insult the Odana, like when he fell in the water and people were laughing. He was encouraging them, not stopping them from laughing at the Odana. He wanted to, just let him suffer a little bit even before he kills him. But I think it's mostly because they were devotees. Because he doesn't tolerate offenses to his devotees. It's just your karma. You did this, you're going to get some karma back for it. He doesn't have to get involved in that. But he definitely gets involved when you offend devotees. I'm just thinking of that Mr. Nair.
Yeah.
Krishna just killed him because he was so bad to the pure devotee, so cheating, trying to cheat, just like the Odin did.
Yeah.
And they died, so Nair also died. And he said Krishna killed him. And he wrote something about Lord Nrsingadev killed him. So that's when you try to usurp the devotee's property. I'm sure he usurped so many other people's properties too. And Krishna didn't kill him for that, Mr. Nair. But once he tried to take Prabhupada's property, the Prabhupada paid for, Krishna is not tolerating that too much. So I think that's the main reason that Krishna was getting involved personally in this fight, because the Odana usurped the devotees' property, what was rightfully theirs. And even the devotee's not even willing to fight for it. Let him keep it. I don't care. I'll just beg. But Krishna's not hearing it. He's explaining to him why he has to do this. So, any other questions, Murli? Or anybody?
No.
Murli, I'm trying to put my screen down so I can see more than the top of your head, but I realize you have to put your screen down.
Oh, it's my screen.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Pranat Govind, do you have a question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Janat Pranam. Wonderful class, Prabhu. Just wanted to know, like Kshatriya, they cannot beg, they cannot, even if a devotee Kshatriya, he has to fight. He cannot live on, begging. But in Kali Yuga or in current time, no one is Kshatriya. Like obviously we are not Kshatriya. But if such kind of cheating happens in our family, where our uncle, relatives, brother, sister, family, mother, father takes away some property which we bought, or which should come to us as part of heredity. So since we are not Kshatriya, and we have been taught to be humble, Trinadapi Sunichena, whatever is happening is part of our karma. What should be done? Should we fight and try to take our share like Pandavas did, or on guidance of Lord, or we should think it is my karma. I should better maintain whatever God has given and work hard and earn. Anyway, I might have also cheated them somehow, somewhere or other. What should be a devotee course of action so that they don't get any reaction? Hari Bol.
Well, I think like something like that, there's so much, I'm hearing something, it could go both ways. One way is you can do what you can to get what's rightfully yours. If somebody's not a devotee, why should they have it when a devotee can have it? Use it in Krishna service. And the other way is it's Krishna's mercy. Like I cheated somebody in the past, and now I'm getting cheated from this now. I mean, you could think that way too. So I think it depends on the whole situation, exactly what, and then what can you do? You're not going to fight, get weapons and fight. I mean, you may have to hire a lawyer or something. I mean, you make some effort. Don't just, walk away with your tail between your legs. You can make some effort, but at the same time, is it worth it? You get, I think that question has to go according to the particular exact situation. You can't just say, or in all cases you do this, or in all cases you do that. Because sometimes you should try to get what's rightfully yours, but if you can't, then you just accept it. And how much of an endeavor, you shouldn't spend years trying to get it. You gotta try to become Krishna conscious. So there's a lot to consider, and it's a you'd have to judge that on a one-on-one basis. You can't do it from just that little bit of what you said. What should you do? I don't know, but I would think in general, you make an effort to get what's rightfully yours. If it gets too involved and, it's just taken away from your Krishna consciousness, then just give it up. And it depends also how much it is. There's millions and millions of dollars, you get a little anxiety about it. If it's a $2,000, oh, forget about it. There's a lot of considerations there. But I don't know if you're saying that nobody's a kshatriya. They may not have been born a kshatriya, but people are kshatriyas. You can be a kshatriya just like you can become a brahmin. I can't think of too many people, but I'm thinking of like, at least in our military in World War II, we had General Patton. He seemed like he was a real kshatriya. And he couldn't understand how you're in this war and you can't be the same as him, you're afraid, or he was, so there are kshatriyas. Interesting about General Patton, he seemed to believe in reincarnation too, because he thought he was in a battle in like a few thousand years ago. He was in a battle. So that's one nice thing about at least he accepted reincarnation.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
I don't know. If you want to talk about it, and if I get any commission, I'll tell you what to do.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, the next thing to discuss with you and then see, because generally I don't find any lawyer to be so clear and transparent like yours. So, you can guide better.
Yeah, you can't trust lawyers for sure.
Yeah. But I personally feel, Prabhu, that, as you indicated the last, we should be seeing what gives us more, peace of mind to do bhakti, to do Krishna consciousness in our service, rather than getting, leaving everything aside and fighting for things which land up to be just couple of $1,000.
Sometimes
So
God wants us to fight too. He doesn't want us to give it away, So that's the thing, is whatever Krishna wants, that's what you have to figure out.
Can we also say that if you do fight, you should fight with the mentality of karma nivekaraste, that I make the endeavor, but the result is up to Krishna.
Yeah. But I'm not sure what it is. So if you really want to discuss it, I have my office hours.
Okay, Prabhu. I'll give you
Schedule an
schedule appointment.
I think I should let you know it's $125 an hour. Anyone else have any questions?
After hearing that fees, I think they are quiet. Nand Gopal Prabhu.
I know. That's why I said that. This is free. This I'm doing for free. I was trying to drive up some business. Okay, so no other questions. I'll go on to the next verse. Text 33. Atachitvam imam dharmyam sagramam na karisyasi tatasvar dharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. It's really nice how he's just giving him all these material things. You know, first of all, it's not like you're going to go to hell. You go to the heavenly planets or you win this earthly kingdom. But if you don't fight, then that's when you're going to go to hell because you're neglecting your duty. Purport. Arjuna was a famous fighter, and he attained fame by fighting many great demigods, including even Lord Shiva. After fighting and defeating Lord Shiva in the dress of a hunter, Arjuna pleased the Lord and received as a reward a weapon called Pashupata Astra. Everyone knew that he was a great warrior. Even Dronacharya gave him benedictions and awarded him the special weapon by which he could kill even his teacher. So he was credited with so many military certificates from many authorities, including his adopted father, Indra, the heavenly king. But if he abandoned the battle, not only would he neglect his specific duty as a kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing from battle. Tachitvam imam dharmyam sagramam na karisyasi tatasva dharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. You know, ever since Arjuna accepted Krishna as his guru, Krishna has been giving him a lot of really good instructions. And because he is a genuine, sincere disciple, he's affected by these instructions, although he still may have some doubts, and he gives Krishna some arguments of what he's thinking, and then Krishna defeats that. And that's the duty of the guru, is to bring the disciple back home, back to Godhead, bring the disciple back to the spiritual world. Of course, Arjuna, he's already with Krishna personally, so he's already in the spiritual world. But for the sake of us having Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was put into some doubt, and now Krishna is relieving him of all these doubts by different answers to his questions. Doubts are, we have to slash with the weapon of knowledge, all these doubts. These doubts are, for the doubting soul, there's neither happiness in this world or in the next. So in the beginning of Krishna consciousness, you should have some doubts. If you just accept blindly, then you'll also possibly leave blindly, get misled by something else. But you should have some doubts. You should have some questions. But once you come to a certain point, you should no longer have any doubts. You may not understand everything. You may read something and you don't understand it, but you don't have any doubts that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that I am a little tiny fragmental part and parcel of him. I meant to serve him, and not just me. Every living entity is a little tiny part and parcel. We're all his eternal servants. I mean, these things we shouldn't have any doubts, and we shouldn't have any doubts about Srila Prabhupada or anything he says in his books. We may not understand it all, but we should know that it's correct. I don't understand it. We shouldn't change it because we don't understand it, or we think Prabhupada wouldn't have said that. He wrote it. It's in his books. So we accept. So we should eventually come to that point of no longer having any doubts about Krishna consciousness being the topmost yoga, Krishna consciousness being the best consciousness anyone can have. We shouldn't have doubts about that. So, but we can have doubts about other things, like how to do things in this material world, and even not doubts, but I don't quite understand this. I can understand it. Doesn't mean this, doesn't mean that. So those things are natural, and that's going to be there. I don't know. I would presume until you're actually a pure devotee, because I have so many things that I read that I don't quite understand. And I try to figure out what it could mean. And even when I figure out what it could mean, I don't even know if that's really what it means, but that makes sense to me. So I can go on. But it may have more meanings than I'm thinking, because I have a little tiny brain. But anyway, so this is Krishna consciousness in the beginning. This is exactly what it is. And Arjuna just given this example of how Arjuna was the soul who is just coming to understand, what should I do? What's the purpose of life? He's not even asking those questions, although they get answered in here. But he's just asking just simple questions. Should I fight or not fight? That's it. And the whole Bhagavad Gita is all about that. But in that, everything gets explained about the whole purpose of life. Just because he has his duty, we also have our duty, not this job that we have. That's not our duty, or that some people have, not me. But okay, next. Any more questions or comments?
So what would be your duty then? How do you know what exactly is your duty?
I always looked at it as your spiritual duties, because that's what you have to do. There's certain duties you have to do. You have to chant your rounds, you have to follow the principles, you have to do some service, you have to support the temple. There's certain things you have to do. And that's what you have to make sure you do that every day, regularly. Read so much or attend classes. I see that more as your duty. Because even your job, whatever you're doing as a job to make money, most of the jobs are Shudra jobs, even though they may give you a lot of pay, it's still considered just a Shudra. And then there are some, like a teacher is a Brahminical job, and you don't get paid as much as a teacher, but it's Brahminical. But you can change from a teacher to a computer programmer. That's not like you have to be a teacher or you have to be a computer programmer. You can't change. This is Kali Yuga. You can go from one job to another. Just go get some degree and you can change your job. Or some jobs you don't need a degree. But in those days, pretty much you were born in a family, you got trained up, and that's what you were. And people didn't change. And that was their nature. It was more natural in those days for people who were Kshatriyas to be born in Kshatriya families, and they had natural qualities of Kshatriya. Even today, there is, what do they call it? The two different kinds of conditioning. you know, like your family, growing up in a certain family and your qualities you have at
Nature and
birth.
nurture.
What are they called?
Nature and nurture.
Nature and nurture. Yeah. So nature is what your natural qualities are, and nurture is how you're treated. Like, so if you have certain qualities, like for instance, Karna, he was a Kshatriya, and he was raised by Shudras, but he had these Kshatriya qualities, and it no matter how much nurture he had to maybe drive a chariot, he was a leader. So, you know, we have both of these in us. So in those days, in particular, the Kshatriyas had those natural qualities, and then they were born in that family, and then they were nurtured to also act in that way. Now, what do you have? I mean, everybody can do anything. So it's
But wouldn't the duty of like a mother be to take care of her children, for a husband to provide for his family, you know, for a wife to take care of her husband, you know, wouldn't those be considered as duties also?
yes, yes,
Brahmachari to serve
right.
the Lord.
Yeah, those are duties also. I mean, I just looked at it when I read it many years ago, pertaining to myself. What's my duty? But yeah, there are so many sub-religious principles that we should follow, you know, but ultimately the highest one, of course, is just surrender to Krishna. That's all you really have to do. And then you can give up all your other duties, all your other responsibilities, if you're really surrendering to Krishna. Now,
Until then, you have to follow the others.
yeah, you should do them right. Okay, so what does that mean? Does that mean that the woman now, she can't work because she has to take care of the family, the kids? Or she works and she does the family too?
I mean, according to Krishna's divine system, remember Devaki Mataji said, that would be ideal. But then this is Kali Yuga, you know.
It's ideal, but it's not practical.
Right.
You know, so, you know.
But like you said, you have to do a little bit of both, though. If you don't have the ideal situation, the mother or the wife still kind of manages most of the household.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
not
of course you're not
these
going to do
days.
it as good as if that's all you had to do. I mean, not necessarily, but in general, if you don't have the time to be there with your children all the time when they're home, if you don't have the time to, you know, to do these things, then you're not going to do as well as if you had the time. I don't think that's practical to do this, you know, the ideal situation. It's ideal, but it's difficult for them to do today.
When Mother Lakshmi Moni first gave birth, she wrote Prabhupada a letter because she was a full-time pujari. So she said, should I do my pujari duties or should I take care of my child? And Prabhupada wrote back both.
Really?
Yeah.
He also wrote back something.
Take care of your child, yeah, it's for some people, right?
Child
Oh,
worship is more important than deity worship.
yeah. For you, child worship is more important than deity worship, he said to the lady. He also, there was someone wanted to give up their child so they can continue doing their deity worship.
That's one.
And Prabhupada said that, you know, worship your child. It's more important. You know, so we were pretty fanatical, willing to do anything for Krishna. Yeah, I mean, but that's what they thought, you know, I got this service. But, so Prabhupada was dealing with a lot of people who, I mean, he had, you know, one devotee chanting Hare Krishna, and he tells Prabhupada, I was chanting Hare Krishna, and I tried to walk through the wall, and I couldn't walk through the wall. Prabhupada laughed, but these are the people he's dealing with. Just think I can do anything, I'm spiritual. But but yeah, we have these other duties, but they're secondary. The highest duty is your spiritual duties. That comes first. I mean, taking care of your children, but you can generally do that at the same time, do your spiritual duties. Unless you're full-time working too, it might be a little harder, but
Then all the duties get messed up a little bit.
yeah. But I don't think that it's so practical, a lot of things she was saying like that. This is Kali Yuga. This is in America. Bangladesh, it might be fine. But it doesn't work so well here.
Yeah, and I think she has stayed with some Indian families too, where it worked nicely, but not even in India. That's not the norm now.
Prabhupada came here and he taught, you preach according to time, place, and circumstance. So according to time, place, and circumstance, we're a certain way here, we're so conditioned. It's not that important. That's just an external thing. Just like these things, these arguments that Krishna has given to Arjuna, in one sense, they're not that important, but they're important because they're going to lead him ultimately to surrendering to Krishna, whatever Krishna wants. So you have to, these arguments are good because we have also these arguments. But ultimately, if we're surrendering to Krishna, that's all that really matters. Surrendering to Krishna means becoming fully Krishna conscious. Just thinking of Krishna, giving your life, everything to Krishna. Not fanatically or externally, but internally and externally. See, a lot of people may do it externally, and the problem with that is you either become a little crazy or you just don't maintain it. But if you're doing it internally and externally, and when you are doing it both internally and externally, you don't try to criticize anybody else who's not doing it. Just try to encourage them. I mean, I see, like, personally, of course, I know with Srila Prabhupada, he didn't say, well, I'm doing all this, you should do all that. He did push us and he got us to do way more than we could have ever done without him. But we were just inspired by him. He never even told us anything personally to do. We just knew what he wanted us to do, because of our temple authorities. But you can even look at, I look at Naranjana Swami because he spends more time with me than any other sannyasi. And he follows very strictly, but at the same time, he's very liberal with others. You should be strict with yourself and liberal with others.
I will ask Mataji, like, how do I, not only reading, next time, not only dancing, but next time, like,
I have no idea what someone is saying. I don't know who it is either. Who's talking?
I accidentally unmuted someone.
Oh, I see. So they weren't talking to me.
Yes.
I'm glad I didn't understand it. I had good reason to not understand it. Okay, any questions? Merely Vadik, come on, you have no more questions?
The comment.
Okay.
You were explaining about how a disciple should deal with the spiritual master in terms of doubts. And Arjuna gives a great example of that in the beginning of the 4th chapter of the Gita, where when Krishna tells him, I instructed Vivishvan millions of years ago. Instead of arguing with him, he says, how am I to understand this? Which is a perfect example of when we have a doubt or when we have a question about what the spiritual master does, how to approach him.
Right. I can see with Tamal Krishna Maharaj, when Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, maybe I should go to China. And Prabhupada said, yeah. And then he said, no, Srila Prabhupada, I can't go to China. No, you can't go. And he came up with so many arguments that actually Srila Prabhupada was starting to get really annoyed with him. And yeah, and then he finally said, okay, I'll go to China.
I am your spiritual master. I say you should go.
Did he say that?
Yeah, that's what Tamal Krishnaras told me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was told by Bajranga, I think his name is Bajranga, nice disciple of Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who was very close with Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj saying, Prabhupada told him that Prabhupada was getting very annoyed with him when he wouldn't accept it. So then he finally accepted. But he did, at least in the beginning, he had some doubts. Of course, he didn't want to do it, so he kept coming up with more. After he got defeated, I guess he kept saying something else that just like almost kind of like a little, when you defeat somebody in some argument in Krishna consciousness, some non-devotee, and then they just say something else, they just so they don't have to accept. So it seemed like that's what was happening. I was in India at that time, and I remember I was very much involved because now this was going on. So our leaders, not Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was he was like Brahma, but the other demigods, they were telling us that now what we're gonna do, we have enough brahmacharis, we can take over all the different temples, we can have and kick out all the householders who are running the temple. We had all these plans. But then Prabhupada had other plans. But anyway, okay, so do we have a test tonight?
Well, he's doing the test. Tamal Krishna Maharaj is still considered one of the pioneers in China, though. People remember his name there.
Of course, he started preaching in China. He was.
I know, so Prabhupada knew.
Well, the same thing happened with Harikesh then Maharaj. When Harikesh was Prabhupada's servant, and then Prabhupada wanted him to go to Eastern Europe to preach, and he didn't want to go. And finally he said to Prabhupada, but there's only meat to eat. And Prabhupada said to him, so eat meat and preach.
Oh.
Yeah, I know with Tamal Krishna, he said, I want to take somebody with me. And he said, you take anyone you want, to China. And when he accepted, then he had some certain things he wanted to do to be successful. Anyway, it worked. I think I was in India too, when the first Chinese devotees got initiated in Mayapur. Yeah. Anyway, but we don't care for China though. But we like the devotees. Okay, so Rasaraj, do we have a quiz? Rasaraj, where are you? Are you muted?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhu. I can post. Give me one second.
What?
Post it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you all very much. Now we're going to see how well you listen to my class and see how well I listen to my class.
You may get a few things wrong, huh?
Yeah, I usually do get at least one wrong, and I'm positive too. I'm right until I see the tricky questions.
I'm posting now.
Okay.
Last question is nice, Prabhuji.
I was paying attention.
Let me know if anybody gets that last one wrong.
Wrong. That means they were really not paying attention. Who's that laughing, Tulsi?
Advika.
Oh, Advika.
Okay, I have a few more devotees.
Okay. Everybody should turn on their papers.
Okay. So, all right, if 70% voted, 4 more devotees are there. If anyone is answering, please let me know. Otherwise, I will end. We can give 10 more seconds.
10, 9, 8, 7.
Some people think too much, huh? They're afraid to get it wrong.
Nobody knows you. Nobody knows who's turning them in anyway.
I know.
Hare Krishna. Okay, I'm.
You should be so attached to the results, right?
And Paul. This is the result.
It's also a closed book test.
Okay. So first question is why fighting would be benefit for Arjuna. So if Arjuna wins, he gets the kingdom, and if he loses, he goes to the heavenly planet. So that's why he in either case he will be benefited. The first and second answer is correct. Okay. Next is what are the duties of Kshatriya? Yeah, so this is from okay. So first 3 options are correct. The last one is not correct. I mean, he goes to it mentioned he goes to what do you call it? Swargalota, but not mentioned as a Vaikuntha. What are the duties of Kshatriya? So this is first 4 answers are correct. Last 2 are not correct. So the educate religious principle to the citizens. So this is not a duty of Kshatriya. It is like Brahmana's duty. And to take sannyas order for preaching purpose. This is also not recommended for Kshatriya. What will be the consequence to Arjuna for not fighting in the war? This is like he will incur sins for neglecting his duty, and he will lose the reputation as a fighter. So this is the from 2.33. Second and third options are correct. I don't see, no one has selected option third.
Select 2. I tried selecting 2 and I couldn't. And then it
Oh,
said,
it was not enabled. Okay.
No, it
Yes.
was not enabled. That's why I selected both of the above.
yeah, both.
Yeah,
Both,
I'm saying both of the above is correct.
both means 2, not 3.
2, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
2
two of
and
the
3 is
above.
correct. 2 and 3 is correct.
Yeah, so both of the above is
Both of them are
correct
correct.
also then.
Yeah, and some that's correct. And how was Arjuna a famous fighter? So this is again purport from 2.33. So the 3 reason it mentioned a fight with the Lord Shiva, and he defeated Lord Shiva, and the credit from Dronacharya and credit from Lord Indra. So these 3 points are mentioned in the purport. That's why he is a famous. And last question. Okay. Which weapon did Arjuna receive from Lord Shiva? Okay, this is 100% correct. That is
that's good.
Astra. And last, the highest point of today's quiz, how much consultancy fees? Pyari Prabhu, do you remember what you said?
I got everyone right on this test somehow, especially this last one, because I know my fee.
Yes, so it's $125. So at least almost 92% corrected.
8% off.
Haribol.
And that's
I think one devotee selected $200. Pyari, you can charge $200 to that devotee.
Because my fee for the devotee is 125. Non-devotee.
Non-devotee is 200.
Anyway, that was a good question. Somebody mentioned it, and I didn't know what they were saying. And then when I got to the question, then I knew what they were saying.
Right. Thank you everyone for participating in the quiz. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Vansakalpatarovascha kripa sindhudev cha patitanam
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अंशुकोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। जगन्नाथ की जय।
Nanda Gopal.